Hello and welcome to the Liberal Studies presentation of the Multiple Subject Credential Program, the MSCP. This is intended for Liberal Studies students at CSUB only. If you're receiving your bachelor's degree in a different major or you receive your degree from a different school, then your pathway will look a little bit different. Again, this is intended for Liberal Studies students at CSUB only for the MSCP. We are located in the Student Success and Advising Center in EED 18. For our drop-in availability, just Google CSUOB Liberal Studies. And our drop-ins are currently in person Monday, Tuesday in the afternoon, 1 to 4. Zoom drop-ins Wednesday and Thursday, and no drop-ins on Fridays. If you have any quick questions, you can also just send us an email. We're really good with replying to those emails. So again, check our Liberal Studies website first before coming in for drop-ins, just to make sure we're available, because our drop-ins are subject to change. The agenda for the presentation will go over part one, what is the Multiple Subject Credential Program, or the MSCP. Part two will be how to apply to the MSCP. So Liberal Studies caters for students that want to be elementary school teachers. Our secondary focus is special education. So if you want to teach elementary or special ed, Liberal Studies is the perfect major. The MSCP credential is what allows you to teach elementary school. Now, if you want to teach PK to 3, it's recommended that you get your bachelor's degree in child development in order to pursue the PK to 3. What you need for the PK to 3 is at least 24 units of child development courses. So if you're getting your bachelor's degree in liberal studies, as long as you have 24 units of child development courses, you will be able to meet subject matter for the PK to 3. If this is you, then you'd want to reach out to the PK to 3 department. Just Google CSUB PK to 3 to reach out to the advisor for the PK to 3, and they could do an evaluation on your courses to make sure that you have subject matter for the PK to 3. If you're interested in teaching middle to high school, you will have to pursue the single subject credential, and it's highly recommended that you get your bachelor's degree in that subject that you want to teach. It's not the only way. So you can technically get your bachelor's degree in anything and then add on the teaching credential afterwards. But if you're doing liberal studies and you want to teach elementary special ed, you don't have your bachelor's degree proves subject matter. If you get your bachelor's degree in child development or any other major and want to teach elementary or get the MSCP or special education credential, then you're gonna have to take the CSET because your bachelor's degree was not in liberal studies. If you get your bachelor's degree in liberal studies and want to teach get the PK to 3 credential, then you have to have those 24 units of child development courses. If you get your bachelor's degree in liberal studies and you want to teach middle high school, then you will have to take the CSET in that subject, whether it be math, science, history, whatever. You have to prove subject matter because your bachelor's degree was not in that subject. So again, you can get your bachelor's degree in anything. It's just highly recommended that you get your bachelor's degree in the subject for the credential that you want to teach. So liberal studies students, you have this checklist of classes. When we talk about the MSCP, we're talking about this part here where it says ITEP MSCP. The only difference is ITEP students are doing this as an undergraduate, where if you're doing your liberal studies BA only without the credential, you're doing this credential program as a post-bac or PBAC. It's the same 31 units. Again, ITEP students and post-bac students are taking the same classes. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. ITEP students, you have the option to do these various pathways, and all of these pathways are available for post-bac as well. So you don't have to do it as ITEP. You can get your bachelor's degree first and then pursue any one of these pathways as a post-bac laureate. So again, referring to these 31 units for the MSCP, these are the courses here. You'll see the 15 units of methods courses and 16 units of student teaching. So it's recommended that if you're doing the traditional pathway for the MSCP, the traditional can be done ITEP or post-bac. It doesn't matter. Traditional MSCP, what that means is that you're doing student teaching in one semester. So that is a traditional pathway. Again, traditional pathway can be done ITEP or post-bac. Now, if you're doing ITEP, it's recommended that you don't take, well, it's recommended for ITEP or post-bac that you do not take all 5 methods courses in one semester. And it's recommended you split them up into 2 semesters. So that you'll see here for the traditional pathway, again, the traditional pathway is doing student teaching in one semester. The credential program advises that you take the 5 methods courses over 2 semesters. Now, it can be done in one semester for the fastest route, but it's just not recommended because there's a lot of content. Plus, you will have your fieldwork hours in each course. So each one of these classes require 10 hours of fieldwork as well. So it's recommended that if you're doing ITEP, you take these with your remaining capstones. So for example, at a 442, at a 452, you should take with LST 400 in the same semester. When you take at a 462, you should take the MTED 402. Again, this is for ITEP students. At a 472, you should take LST 471. So this is a true integration of the BA and the credential. However, for SCED 475, you cannot take in the same semester as the capstone. So SCED 401 must be done prior to taking SCED 401. You can also check this information on our Liberal Studies website. So go to the Liberal Studies website, under Forms and Documents, click on the plus, click here on the plus sign, and then go to Academic Planning Documents, and then you'll see here Graduation Roadmaps. Then you'll see here ITEP MSCP. And here you'll notice on our roadmap where you see the capstone with the credential course. So you'll see here that they're taking ETA 472 and ETA 462. That's 2 credential courses. And then ETA 442, 452, and SCD 475. So they split up the methods courses into 2 semesters. 1 semester 2, 1 semester 3 of the credential courses. Or you could do 3 in 1 semester, 2 in the other semester. So this is just a roadmap, a guide. You don't necessarily have to follow this, but it's recommended that you, if you're doing the traditional pathway, that you are doing, if you're doing ITEP, that you're doing your BA courses with the methods courses to integrate that. Again, the traditional pathway is where you're doing student teaching in 1 semester. So you'll see here, traditional pathway, 1 semester. It's not recommended to take all 5 in 1 semester, but it can be done. It's just a lot of work. So caution to those that want to do all 5 methods courses in 1 semester. Keep in mind, student teaching, you will not be able to take any other courses with student teaching. You can only take student teaching. So you'll see here, student teaching has a Cal TPA support course. So you'll be enrolled in 1 semester, 16 units. Now, if you, again, this could be done ITEP or post-bac for the traditional pathway. Now, if you want to do the student teaching in 2 semesters, you have the U-Teach option. The U-Teach option, you must have all of your BA classes done prior to starting U-Teach, and U-Teach only begins in the fall term. So if you want to do U-Teach, you can do U-Teach as an ITEP student or as a post-bac student. Again, so you have this option either way, whether you're doing ITEP or the credential as a post-bac, where you're doing, say, 3 or 2 of your methods courses in the fall term and the other 3 or 2 in the spring term. So you're splitting the student teaching up into 8 units in the fall, 8 units in the spring. Again, U-Teach is only available beginning, you have to start in the fall term. You're not at CSULB at all. You're at the elementary school site that we're partnered with. So that you're learning your methods, and that same week, what you've learned in class, you're implementing that hands-on student teaching. And everybody in U-Teach is at that same school site. So you have a lot of support with the U-Teach pathway. An example or typical schedule is that in the fall term, you're taking, say, 3 of your methods courses and then half 8 units of student teaching. And in the spring term, you're doing the other 2 methods courses and the other half of your student teaching. So again, U-Teach You're splitting up student teaching into 2 semesters, whereas the traditional pathway, you're doing all of your methods courses first and doing student teaching by itself in 1 semester. Okay, you teach, you have to have all your BA classes done prior. Um, you would not be eligible for you teach if you've taken any of the methods courses. You have to have all of your methods courses left over for the fall term. So you teach, you have to have all of the methods courses, the entire 31 units of the credential program. You cannot start prior to that fall term. We also have the Long Beach Teacher Residency for You Teach BILA pathway. Same as far as scheduling, but you'll be student teaching in a Spanish dual immersion classroom, and you're eligible for a $34,000 grant for the You Teach BILA pathway. So again, this is the typical schedule if you're doing You Teach, where you're splitting up student teaching into 2 semesters. Admission requirements for the credential program, and this is basically for all credentials. Typically, the GPA is the same, but for MSCP, you have to complete EDL 200 with a B or better. That could be the equivalent course if you transfer the course. You have to have a 2.67 GPA cumulative or a 2.75 within your last 60 units. The credential program, which I'll show you on the website, you need to provide a personal statement. Don't get too caught up on the personal statement. They just want to know why you want to be a teacher, what's your motivation for being a teacher, what experiences you have in the classroom. You could just say, your field work for the EDL 200 is the only experience you have, and they understand that. They understand you're just starting off, so you're not going to be a professional. They just want to know why you want to be a teacher, what's your motivation for being a teacher, and any experiences you do have in the classroom. You need to provide one recommender, and then you'll need to provide your final field work evaluation, not required for UDCP. The final field work evaluation for the course is the teacher in the classroom that you were in did an evaluation on you. So this is not anyone at CSULB. It's the elementary school teacher that you were doing your fieldwork classes in, or your fieldwork in. So you're doing your hours in those. And then you also need a valid certificate of clearance, proof of negative TB test, self-assessment of disposition, and that's on the application. And then you'll need to do an interview. The interview can be done before you submit the application or after you submit the application. Keep in mind, interviews are only done during the semester. So you want to make sure you get that interview in, and depending on when you're applying, that you submit the application by that due date. So here's an example of the certificate of clearance. If you got your fingerprint elsewhere, you will still need to get the certificate of clearance through the state of California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. So keep in mind that you have to, this is the certificate of clearance that's required for the application and is also required for fieldwork hours when you're doing your fieldwork hours for any of the classes, any of the courses here. It is valid for 5 years. As far as looking for the application, I will show you how to access that, but you can just Google CSULB MSCP or CSULB UDCP. To go back really quick, the TB test is valid for 4 years, so just keep in mind. And for the application deadlines for the multiple subject credential program, if you're applying for the fall term is from August to December. Your deadline is July 1st. So you would want to do your interview, in the spring term by May and submit the application by July. Just keep in mind also, interviews are valid for 2 years. So keep that in mind as well. If you're applying for the spring term is from January to May, then your deadline is December 1st. So if you're applying for the spring term, say you don't even have the interview done by December 1st, then you need to submit the application by December 1st and make sure you do that interview in December. Because again, interviews are available just during that semester. So in the fall semester, you have from September, typically October to December, And then in the spring semester, you have from March to May. If you're applying for the summer, then your deadline is by May 1st. Okay, so these are the deadlines that you have to submit the MSCP application. UDCP and UTeach have a little bit of different deadlines. So make sure you check their websites to make sure you confirm their updated deadlines for UDCP or UTeach. And go teach. Make sure you check out our part 2 on how to apply to the credential program. Thank you for watching.